Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Fantasy Football Uptick. I'm Jeremiah Blue, and today with me is my buddy from the Air Force, King Smith. He's currently a part-time comedian and a full-time fantasy football champion. So, welcome to the show, Smith. How you doing?
Hey man, Blue, I'm doing all right, brother. Thanks for asking.
Yeah.
Glad to be here.
All right. So we did a mock draft, and I went ahead and picked the 12th spot. I hate the 12th spot. I'm not gonna lie to you. 12th spot's the worst spot because you're tucked in at the corner. You really have no control to kind of guide the draft. And typically when you're trying to reach for a player, you got a player you like, and he's 10 picks away. You're like, maybe he makes it back to me on the turn. You gamble. When you're at the back end, you're not getting the guy that you want 10 picks away. You know he'll be gone before he comes. So if you really like the guy, you have to reach out and grab him. Typically picking at the end, either in first or 12th, you're going to end up doing a lot of that. Now, at the first, at least you end up getting Saquon Barkley, Christian McCaffrey, Ezekiel Elliott if he's playing, whoever it is you want. So let's kind of go through there. I did the 12th because I think that's the worst spot to draft this year. You went ahead and picked the 7th, which I liked. And you did that basically so that we can kind of get two different perspectives because it changes based on where you draft. Now, you draft a little bit different than I did, so we're gonna talk about your picks. But as you can see here, Barkley, Kamara, Christian McCaffrey all went about right. Ezekiel is still holding out, so Team Ford went ahead and went David Johnson, which I don't blame him for passing on Zeke. I'm not necessarily a huge David Johnson fan, but if you want to hear that, you can go to the David Johnson. We've just done 3 episodes of running backs, so I won't spend too much time on, especially some of these earlier running backs. Maybe I'll talk a little bit about the later running backs. But then it goes 4 receivers, right? So you started the receiver run with DeAndre Hopkins. Honestly,
Yes, sir.
yeah, so I mean, unless you got something to say, I agree with you. DeAndre Hopkins is the number 1 receiver, right around that spot. That's where I'm taking him as well. This is going to be a half-point PPR league, so really, there's nothing to say negative about getting a receiver kind of early. We'll talk a little bit about my strategy when we get to pick 12. But anything you want to add about DeAndre Hopkins?
No, there's some of the analysts out there talking about between Devonte Adams or Hopkins. For me, being that he was still there at 7, and just like you said, the first 4 picks, Barkley, Kamara, McCaffrey, it's gonna kind of be there. What I would have liked to had seen kind of in this league or for this draft is where people would have gone had Elliott not gone at 5 or even 6. I know that if he was there at 7, I wasn't taking him. I was still going Hopkins.
Yeah, and that's the way you got to do it. I would take him. I would gamble because it's Elliott. I think there's like Gordon, he's off my board, but Elliott is that special of a talent to where I'm taking him somewhere in that realm. Also, I think he's going to play. I don't think he really has any leverage. I'm still leaning the way that he's going to play by week 1, but I mean, if he doesn't, then I would have egg on my face. I don't think he holds out all year, though, whereas I do think there's a chance that Melvin Gordon does, which is bad.
Ooh.
So when we get to me, there's a lot of debate over at the top of the drafts where it's like I'm comparing Julio, DeAndre Hopkins, Devonte Adams, Tyreek Hill to these running backs that are kind of like not the elite 4, Dalvin Cook, Nick Chubb, James Conner. Obviously, Todd Gurley could be elite, but nobody expects him to get the workload he got last year. And when I take 2 running backs like this, it's not that I'm saying, hey, I think Dalvin Cook and Nick Chubb are just miles away better than, Juju or Michael Thomas or Keenan Allen or Odell Beckham. I'm taking these guys because really it boils down to what am I comfortable drafting towards the end of the draft. And I like the receiving core at the end of the draft. You can see the guys I took, DJ Moore, Sterling Shepard, Corey Davis. I like these guys more than guys like Austin Eckler, Latavius Murray, LaShawn McCoy, where basically that's the way you got to balance. If you're going to take these high-profile receivers, you're going to end up with all these running backs. Now, what a lot of people are saying, they're calling the zero running back strategy, which what it's relying on is essentially you're going to get a running back that is the backup to somebody who gets hurt. And they're going to put up similar production, which does happen. The problem is you have to rely on getting that backup, and now you're just throwing darts at all these like backup running backs, and you're assuming they're going to come in and be like James Conner, which a lot of times it happens more with running backs than it does with receivers. DeAndre Hopkins gets hurt doesn't make Will Fuller a top 10 receiver. If Alvin Kamara gets hurt, Latavius Murray could be a top 10 running back. There is a difference there, and I understand that, but I want to come out of the draft with a team that I think is going to win week 1. I do believe there's a chance that Sterling Shepard finishes at a top 15 receiver this year. He's going to be the number 1 target in New York. I do believe that DJ Moore can take that step. So I'm looking at these guys in that way. So I took Dalvin Cook and Nick Chubb, and if you want to know why I took those guys over Joe Mixon and Todd Gurley, you can go look at, like, again, I don't want to focus too much on running backs because I've beat that dead horse on this show. So it comes back around to you. You go Keenan Allen. Well, what were you thinking? You basically are doing the 0 running back strategy, or at least the 2 receivers right off the bat, which is, again, kind of what I'm talking about. If you get 2 good ones, then 2 good running backs, then obviously you're hitting a home run with Hopkins and Keenan Allen.
Yep, I wanted high target, high volume type wide receivers. Just plain and simple. That's it.
Yeah, you wanted basically, because we're doing half-point PPR, so you're looking at the PPR point and getting your points there. I like half-point PPR. I personally I'm a standard guy. I like standard. I don't like the PPR, and the reason I don't like PPR is it's not a real stat. Honestly, like a reception for 0 yards, you didn't actually do anything for your team. But I like it in the middle because half-point is kind of in the middle of the standard and the PPR, so you kind of please everybody. But it's not like overwhelmingly going towards guys like James White where they're just going to catch a bunch of passes. It's still, you're only getting a half point at this point. So I like what you did there. You got 2 safe guys. And if you want to go safe, and that's what people talk about, going safe at the top of the drafts, going with these elite receivers is so much safer than trying to bank on Sterling Shepard, Corey Davis, those kind of guys to have a breakout season. But then it comes back around and you end up with Freeman.
Devonte Freeman, yes, sir. I was pretty happy about that as well. With Fournette being off the board and Jones, which I'm not going to say anything about Melvin Gordon. Those situations scare me with the contract stuff. And in the past, I've been burned making that gamble. So when Jones came off the board and Fournette came off the board, for me, it was left to – I liked Mack, Henry, and Freeman. But being that I'm a Falcons fan and I know a lot more about their offense, and I think that Freeman's health is, back this year, that to me, taking Freeman right there was a no-brainer.
Honestly, I think there's a very high floor with Freeman, assuming he doesn't get hurt. I don't like to draft because I'm afraid people are going to get hurt. Now, understand that if they're currently hurt in training camp, like if they have a hamstring injury, I'm staying away. I'm saying if they have a history of injuries, but they're healthy right now, I went in on that deep with Dalvin Cook. Like, I'm not worried Dalvin Cook's going to get hurt because he's just as likely in my mind to get hurt as Saquon Barkley. They're both running backs. They can both twist their knee at any given moment, But I'm going to assume he's currently healthy, that he's going to be healthy all year. Now, some people don't agree with that, and that's why Dalvin Cook falls a lot. But for me, that's what I'm going for. I'm going for the upside play and the floor when they're on the field. And with Devonte Freeman, the one thing I don't like about Devonte Freeman is that there's almost no scenario where, in my brain, that he gets all the work because the Atlanta Falcons just don't operate that way. I mean, Tevin Coleman was clearly head over heels the best running back last year for Atlanta, and they still split the work. I just don't see that. Maybe Devonte Freeman is just so much better than Coleman that they're like, okay, we're going to give him all the work. But he's suffering with he's had concussion problems in the past. Now, if there are injuries that scare me, that's one of them. The concussion one seems to pop up. Once you get one concussion, they just start coming, right? And then, of course, if they're coming off like an Achilles sprain or something and they haven't actually played, they do something like running back. They just never have the same burst right off the bat. But I like the Devonte Freeman pick. I personally, especially in half-point PPR, I like the upside that Mac brings. So I like him a little bit more, but that's right where Devonte Freeman going. There's nothing wrong with that pick, at least not in my mind. So I struggled here in the 3rd round at the end. For me, I'm looking, if I'm drafting at the end of the draft, I want either Kittle or Ertz. Those guys give you such an advantage at the tight end position. I think the tight end position this year is one of the most vital ones to go and get a elite tight end, right? And I think there's only 3 elite ones. I think that Ingram and O.J. Howard could be right there on the cusp. I prefer Ingram over him because I think there's a higher floor with Ingram, whereas O.J. Howard has a history with Arians. And then my emergency tight end, I won't go any further than this as long as he's available, is Hunter Henry. So as soon as I see O.J. Howard come off, as you can see, I get Hunter Henry. But what I wanted was Ertz right there, and then I wanted to take the best running back I could because, as I said earlier, I trust the receivers at the end of the draft to make a step up. And there's a lot of them. The ones I went with, but I like Robbie Anderson. I like Allen Robinson. I would even settle for Curtis Samuel. We talked a little bit offline about Jarvis Landry. I'm fine with Jarvis Landry. I think a lot of those guys that are falling in drafts are fine to start the season with, and you can kind of adjust right there. It's tough to find running backs. Now, a lot of people are going to go, Derrick Henry in a half-point PPR, he doesn't catch the ball like at all. Yeah, but week 14 through week 17, he was the highest scoring running back in any format because he was just a monster. Tennessee finally realized that he is the workhorse in Tennessee, and they fed the man. I can't imagine that they look at week 14 through 7. The reason they missed the playoffs is because they didn't give him the ball enough. I can't imagine they go back to that this season. There's just no way. He's going to get the rock all the time. They're going to feed him the ball 20 times a game. I don't care if he doesn't catch the ball because he's going to be putting up touchdowns. He's going to be putting up 100-yard games. I love Derrick Henry. I'm fine with Derrick Henry right there, even in half point. I want him to fall to me. I do like David Montgomery. I toyed with going for running backs here because after David Montgomery, to me, there's kind of a drop off. There's Montgomery. Chris Carson was awesome last year, but I think Penny gets involved this year. Josh Jacobs, I don't trust Oakland. I don't trust that they're not going to give the ball to Doug Martin. I don't trust that. Josh Jacobs is a great talent. He wasn't even the lead back in college. Like, I'm not ready to say that he's going to be, the breakout rookie of the year. Go ahead. Defend your boy.
No, I can't. I'm not there. To be honest with you, I even said, who is Josh Jacobs? Like, it took me actually doing some research on Josh Jacobs to figure out who he is. I started following him on Twitter and everything because of where people are ranking him, where they're placing him. I don't get it. I don't see it. I'm not touching him. I'm with you.
Yeah. And he was drafted in the first round. People are expecting him to be the workhorse back. I'm just not buying it, and I don't want to risk it at that point when I can get guys, good receivers at this point. And this is, again, because the running backs fall off a cliff right in that fourth round. This is why I'm like, no, I got to get my running backs. I love a lot of these receivers. I like Sammy Watkins. I love Marvin Jones is fine. Larry Fitzgerald's awesome. With Kyle Murray, I think that offense is going to be a lot faster. So I like a lot of these guys. And the running backs for me, I just don't want Lamar Miller. I don't want Austin Eckler because what if Melvin Gordon comes back? Then I can't even start this guy. I don't want any of these bums. So I'm so basically I'm drafting position scarcity, and a lot of people say don't do that. For me, 12-team, whatever, I'm doing it because I want good running backs, and I play in tough leagues. People are all over the waiver wire. I'm not guaranteed to get anything, and depending on how the waiver wire is set up, I might not get a good player all year because some waiver wires are you have to suck initially in the year to even be at the top of the waiver wire, and those guys are gone by the time it gets to pick 12, which I'm planning on being the best team in the league to start the year, right?
I like that.
So
I like it.
I have to load up on these running backs, right? And I'm telling you, this is a bad draft for me because I didn't get the tight end. Ideally, I would love to get Zach Ertz, Derrick Henry. I locked up my tight end. I locked up my 3 running backs, and now there's enough positional flexibility that I'm just letting the draft come to me at this point, right? So we get to you, Mark Ingram. Mark Ingram is actually the last on my really good list. I actually got Jacobs on my draftable list. I don't like him as much as I like David Montgomery, but Mark Ingram is where I really draw the line because I do think he's the workhorse in Baltimore. So
yep, and I was excited that Jacobs, Carson, and both and David in this draft went above me because I would have taken Mark Ingram above all 3 of them anyway. I staying here in Maryland. I've had a chance to see the Ravens practice, their camps, and I even went to the preseason game. Now Ingram Didn't I don't think he dressed in that game. They said I can't recall. But looking at how Baltimore is going to have their offense this year, where it goes from like Jackson and back, I think Ingram's going to be, dare I say, top 10 running back at the end of the fantasy year this year.
Okay. No, hey, I can see it. Honestly, Lamar Jackson, first of all, Baltimore's, to me, is one of the best coach teams in the NFL. Maybe, granted, Bill Belichick exists. Outside of Bill Belichick, let's just put him off. He would be number one for me. That would be the top. Now, granted, he didn't have Tom Brady. I'm just saying, maybe if the tables were turned, he had Brady his whole career, maybe something different could happen. I love Harbaugh. But if you're looking at Mark Ingram there, I think they're going to run the hell out of the ball. Lamar Jackson, what he does to the defenders on the edge, he basically keeps them honest, which is going to open up gaps up the middle. You can't crash in on the running game when you have a quarterback who, if you lose containment on him, can take you to the house. Mm-hmm. So even if all he has to do this year, Lamar Jackson, is just be able to throw the deep ball a little bit. Just keep the safeties back a bit. And they're going to have a lot of room to run there. And I think that defense is going to be really good, which I'll talk about a little bit later. So I like Mark Ingram. And what you did, so going back to your draft as a whole, because this is a draft strategy show, you had Hopkins and Allen. I think if you're going to go 2 receivers, you have to go 2 running backs. And I think you got lucky. Because let's say Mark Ingram goes where Goodwin goes. Well, I mean,
ooh,
yeah, you're sitting there. And that's why I do what I do at the top of the. I need to get those 2 running backs at least, and I'll take that third one if he's there, because now you're looking at Phillip Lindsay. Freeman's going to get more involved. There's a big drop off at the Mark Ingram. So this is the draft fell to you perfectly because you got your 2 receivers that you wanted, solid, and then you end up getting 2 running backs that you really like, which is also great. But after those guys, now you're looking at, like I said, Lindsey, Tevin Coleman. These are running back by committees. Sony Michel, I mean, even though he's on the Patriots, there's a lot of running backs there, and I just don't like Patriot running backs. So I think, and again, that's why if you're drafting at this back end, you're kind of painted in a corner, in my opinion, to get some of these running backs just to fill your roster the way you want. At the end of the day, it's roster construction, not necessarily the best players, because if you've got a team full of receivers, you're not going to win anything if you don't got a running back, if you don't got the quarterback or tight end you like, and you're losing all those battles. Yeah, you might be winning the receiver battle. Overall, you're not winning construction of the roster, right?
Yep.
Okay, so it comes back to you, and you go O.J. Howard, which I love. Ingram went in front. Now, you would have probably taken O.J. Howard ahead of Ingram.
No, I preferred Ingram over Howard. I was actually upset that because I was like queued up. I was like, oh man, I'm gonna get my guy. Because for me, one of the things that you even said at the start of this with the tight ends, I think you get to Kelsey, Kittle, Ertz. All right, tier 1, tier 2. I've put in it goes Ingram, Henry, then Howard. So I was hoping on getting Howard. I'm sorry, Ingram, didn't get him. So to me, just by default, it came down to Howard. It was a flip of the coin actually between Howard and Henry because I value actually Henry higher than Howard. But I end up going Howard just as a no real strategy other than I want it to be a little bit different than maybe what my thinking might have been on that.
And I like Howard. Honestly, Howard could be – he's got the talent to be an absolute monster. They got a new coaching staff in there. The problem is Bruce Arians has never really utilized his tight end throughout his whole career. You can go through all his different teams. That being said, he's never had O.J. Howard on his team. And O.J. Howard is an elite running back – tight end, and you got those 2 receivers on the outside that the defenses are going to be so – concerned with. Now you got Howard in the middle, and I'll go back to like when he coached in Arizona and he had David Johnson. He never really used running backs like that either because he never had David Johnson. And when he had David Johnson, he was able to utilize David Johnson in a way that was outside of. So my belief with the Howard pick, if I were to pick Howard, is that he can adjust because I've seen him adjust his game plan in the past with David Johnson. So I think that he's going to end up adjusting with O.J. Howard, and it's going to be good. But that's why I like Evan Ingram is because there is a little bit of me that thinks if he doesn't adjust enough, is O.J. Howard going to be able to fit into that system. So we talked a little bit about it. Gets to me at this point. I'm crushed. All 5 of the tight ends I wanted to draft are gone. The only thing I got left is Hunter Henry. I don't love Hunter Henry, but I like Hunter Henry, and I hate every other tight end in the group. You know, if I'm really desperate, I would go David Njoku eventually. But if I miss out on Hunter Henry, chances are I'm just not going to take a tight end. I'm going to stream one all year long, right? I just don't like any of the tight ends outside after this 6. Every other one is just whatever to me. I'm not going to waste a pick on them. I'd rather get a receiver or somebody who I think is going to actually be able to break out this year, right?
Okay.
And then so we talked a little bit about it. I ended up going DJ Moore. I drafted Diggs. I didn't talk much about that, but Diggs was my elite receiver there. I wasn't ready to take Evan Ingram or O.J. Howard. I was hoping one of them would fall to me all the way back. I ended up going to Ingram. I think that still would have been a little bit high for Evan. I ended up taking Diggs. I still think that would have been a little high for me to take Ingram with. So I'm happy with the Hunter. Then we come back, very happy. David Moore was still there. I think David Moore is a talented guy. I think Cam was a little bit banged up last year. I think that he's going to be able to get David Moore the ball. And, I mean, between him and Curtis Samuel, I think that both of them are going to be pretty good this year. I like them both, but I like David Moore a little bit more. I think, or DJ Moore a little bit more. I think he's got just more talent overall than Curtis Samuel. So it comes back to you. You went Pettis. So talk to me a little bit about Pettis. Why'd you go receiver there after getting your 2 running backs and your tight end?
Well, I was thinking about going quarterback here, but when I looked at who was still available, my next pick, which I'm kind of talking ahead of myself, I thought would still be there. So 2 wide receivers, 2 running backs, tight end. I'm like, you know what? Let me come back up to another wide receiver, a guy that I could hold on to, who I think is going to be an important piece to San Francisco's offense, and I felt like was the best available
so let me ask you,
wide
were
receiver.
you thinking at all, so you weren't thinking running back at all, like you felt comfortable with Mark Ingram and Devonte Freeman going 2 running backs into your season, even though the history of Freeman getting hurt relatively, so that didn't play into any factors or anything like that? Okay.
None.
So that's why, again, I don't like to go in with some of those guys. Like Freeman, the concussion thing scares me a bit. And Ito Smith's going high. I don't even know if Ito Smith's the real backup, but I know he's going to be sharing the ball with somebody down there in Atlanta. So, I mean, here I would be wanting to go running back. I'd probably settle for like a Geis or a Penny, but I mean, I wouldn't want to do that. That's why I wouldn't want to put myself in that position. I want to get my running backs out of the way because I like the receivers there. And Pettis is a fine receiver. He's one of those guys I like. Honestly, I like all the receivers in this range, which is why I want to go running back heavy because Pettis is a fine receiver. He could be a beast with Garoppolo throwing it to him. So it came down to Kyle Murray. I like the Kyle Murray pick. I don't really know what he's going to be, but I do know that if he's not very good, you can get a quarterback in free agency. So he's got the upside of, Baker Mayfield from last year. I started to get a little bit nervous here because I draw the line at quarterback around Wentz, of people that I feel very comfortable starting as long as they are on the field. And actually, I don't draw the line at Wentz. Wentz is actually higher on my list. Patrick Mahomes, Watson, Luck's been dealing with injury, but there's Rodgers, and then Wentz is right there in that group. I have him over Ryan, I have him over Baker, I have him over Kyle Murray. Wentz, when he plays, is good. What are you? I mean, why do you not like Wentz?
No, it's not that I don't like Wentz, but over Matt Ryan. Now, taking away that I'm a Falcons fan. Yeah. There's plenty of analysts talking about Matt Ryan having an MVP season this year.
There's also plenty of analysts saying that the Eagles are the most talented team in football this year. When Wentz is healthy, that team is too good. They added Deshaun Jackson. They added a rookie in the draft. They got Alshon Jeffrey. They have 2 elite tight ends. They added Miles Sanders. Wentz and they have a great offensive line. So does Atlanta. But Ryan has had bad years in the past. When Wentz is healthy on a per-game basis, Wentz is a monster.
Yeah.
The only thing that Wentz fails you on is that he gets hurt. If he plays 16 games, he's going to be a top 3 quarterback. Write it down. I'm just telling you. Wentz is a beast. This is the guy I want in every one of my drafts is Carson Wentz.
We're coming back to this.
Yeah. Okay. Hey, we had this discussion about Cam Newton from last year. Didn't we have a bet on that going?
Oh, you know what? We have to go back and check the tapes.
He rushed for 300 yards before he got to week 8. So I'm telling you, if it's either injuries, that's the only thing stopping Wentz is injuries, and the Dallas Cowboys. Go Cowboys. So okay, we got Sterling Shepard coming off the board next. I know he's banged up. He's got the finger thing, but he's going to be the number 1 receiver I think he's going to lead the team in targets in general. I know Saquon's there, but I think Sterling Shepard picks up a lot of those targets left back by Odell Beckham. And he was a number 1 draft pick too. Like, he's a very talented player, and I think they're going to be losing a lot. Sterling Shepard is going to get riddled with targets. What was coming out of camp is he's far and away the best player in the receiving group. So I think the finger's going to heal up, and as soon as it heals up, in the meantime, I got Stephon Diggs and DJ Moore. He's going to sit there. I'm going with the upside. I'll wait till he gets healthy. I think the only reason he's down at where he's at with me is that he is injured. So I'm taking the value there. Comes back to you. You go Kareem Hunt there. What's the thought process there?
Best available back, man, in my opinion. I got my backup wide receiver. I still only had 2 running backs at this point, and Kareem Hunt sitting out there was the best back that I felt like could fill that team out for me.
8 weeks. There's no way you don't drop him by the end of those 8 weeks. That's my only issue with Kareem Hunt. There's going to be somebody in free agency that I'm just going to drop the dude for because, it doesn't matter. Like, yes, I agree with you. He's going to be good. I just don't think you're going to be able to roster him that long. I'm too active on the waiver wire. I'm not hanging on to Kareem Hunt. Not when I see this guy playing and can help me right now. Injuries start to pile up. That's what I'm saying. So to me, I wouldn't be dealing with Kareem Hunt just based off of that alone. I would rather take a guy. And if you don't drop him, whoever drafts him will drop him. So if you really like him, you're going to get him before week 8 because he's going to be in free agency.
There are players like me that are stash and dash guys.
Yeah, wait till you start losing 2 games. You lose two of your first 3 games, and you're like, I got to drop this dude, And then the Nick Chubb guy's got 3 games under his belt. He's like, I'll trade for him, I'm just saying, to me, I'm gonna drop Hunt personally, but there's other guys out here that I would take. Corey Davis. Corey Davis, which was let's go to your next pick first. Oh, you auto-picked Greg Olsen. Why this thing made you auto-pick Greg Olsen? I have no idea.
Yeah, that one kind of made me upset too. So I actually had queued up Marvin Jones, which is another wide receiver. And actually, I know we had talked about this a little bit prior to recording. I actually was wanting to take a defense in round 9, and I wanted it to be Chicago's defense, and they got taken off the board early in round 9. So my 2 auto pick people that I felt like was still going to be there was off the board, and I guess Greg Olsen was the next best player after Larry Fitzgerald. Not happy about that.
Yeah.
Glad this isn't my real league.
Yeah. Okay, so Corey Davis fell to me. Now, obviously, I was going to go another receiver here because that's basically what my strategy is. I want to get about 4 receivers, get my 3 running backs, 4 receivers that I like. Corey Davis is right at the back end of receivers that I like. He's talented. He was a top 5 pick. Mariota has been good before. I know he's been bad in recent memory, but they lost their offensive coordinator, so I think there's going to be a different flow in the offense. Which, going back to Devonte Adams, so that old Tennessee Titans offensive coordinator, name's escaping me right now, but he went to Green Bay. There's a trend. All those McVay disciples, right, that they throw it to the slot a lot. So they work in, out on their offenses. So they throw it inside tight ends, and then they work their way outward towards the deeper receivers, right? So this is why I don't like Devonte Adams as much as I like Hopkins. Don't get me wrong, Devonte Adams is going to be fine. Rodgers is still going to throw it to Devonte Adams. But if you're making me compare it, the little things is what separates the elites, right? And Devonte Adams doesn't play in the slot; he plays on the outside. If the offense is built to go in out, Devonte Adams is going to be a later look than early on. It works to get those guys in the middle wide open. So a guy like Valdez-Scantling is supposed to play the other outside. It's probably going to end up Geronimo Allison is going to probably be the inside guy. So he could get a lot of work, assuming that offense kind of follows the same trend, even though it's going to Green Bay with Aaron Rodgers. Anyway, side note, going back to the Tennessee Titans, he's gone. His offense is gone. So Mariota's working on a different offense this time. Now, if they can establish the running game, all of a sudden that deep ball is going to work a lot better because people are going to be stacking the boxes. I think Corey Davis could be big. Now, granted, I don't need him to be big. He's my fourth receiver. But he, at this point, I'm going upside, has the opportunity to be that. I don't doubt his talent. The reason he hasn't been good yet is all about Mariota and the quarterback, whoever's quarterbacking for Tennessee Titans, the offense, the way they're running. Like, Corey Davis is talented. I've watched film on Corey Davis. He's good. If that improves a little bit, he's going to have a big year. After that, I went Payton Barber. At this point, I'm going to start a running back in a Bruce Arians ran offense. I have to take Payton Barber. At this point, I usually want to get another running back. So that one just kind of worked. And, I mean, Payton Barber is just significantly better than all of these guys. All of these guys need a running back to get hurt, to even be relative at all. And Payton Barber is the starter, and all he needs is Ronald Jones to not be good, which could be a thing. So, right? Because if Ronald Jones ain't good, he's going to be on a high-powered Arians offense as the starting running back. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I'll take that all day. So it comes back to you. You go Dante Moncrief. I love Dante Moncrief. I'll let you talk about him.
Yeah, man. I like what the Steelers do with passing the ball. No Antonio Brown there. You got Juju. Next man up kind of goes Washington Moncrief. He's a talented wide receiver. He was there. I love him over Sanders. I'm kind of high on Metcalf only because that guy's a freak of nature, and I want to see him do well. But in fantasy, nah, I couldn't quite touch him right there. So taking Dante Moncrief came the 10th round right there. Just made sense.
Nice. Okay, so then it comes back to you again, and it goes Damian Harris. So talk about Damian Harris. This guy you did know about.
Yeah, man. Harris was a pick that, okay, again, I still needed a running back because I'm banking on Freeman and Ingram being not like workhorse 20, touches, type guys, but that they're going to do significant enough to warrant like a RB1, RB2. Harris was the next guy because when you take a look at the running backs that were left, the other guys may not see the field, but 7-8 touches a game. Harris could be worked in to where he's got potential if I need to fill him in like a flex or, a bye week situation.
I don't mind Harris there, actually. I think I don't like Patriot running backs, but if I'm drafting at the end of drafts, I like the last Patriot running back because that you never know who's going to be the best running back in New England. It comes on back to me after that, which was Alexander Mattison. So I say this when I talk about my elite running backs. I wanted elite running backs that got a clear handcuff that's going to take all the work if the other guy goes down. This is why I like Cook a lot more than a lot of other guys. I like Chubb because the clear handcuffs, I am annoyed that you took Hunt because I would have loved to take Hunt at the end of the draft. But at the end of the draft, not in that round, but I get Madison here. And Cooks does have an injury, or Dalvin Cook, has an injury history. He gets hurt. I've got Alex Madison right here, who's going to jump right in, or Alexander Madison, who's going to jump right in. Going to be the feature back there in Minnesota, which I think is going to be a better offense than people realize. Comes back around. I go Baltimore here. I actually love Baltimore this year. First of all, they have the best secondary in the NFL. PFF says it. I think it. They added Earl Thomas. I love the coaching staff. I've already talked about how much I love the coaching staff in Baltimore. They did lose a lot up front. So I'm not saying that they're going to be the best defense, but they do play the Miami Dolphins in week 1. So I'm going to get a W in week 1, and then I can reevaluate my defensive situation, right? If they don't look great against the Dolphins, then I need to go to the waiver wire, right? Going back to what you were talking about the Bears, I wanted to bring it up, but I couldn't remember who the end of the Bears schedule was. So this is something that people don't do. When I look at defenses,
I know what you're about to bring up.
I look at who are they playing week 1, maybe who are they playing week 2, and then who are they playing week 14, 15, 16. You want to know the schedule for the Bears in week 14, 15, 16? Dallas Cowboys, Green Bay Packers, and in your championship, the Kansas City Chiefs. I'm not saying no thank you. I'll still take the Bears as my number 1 defense. All I'm saying is I'm not reaching for them, because if they're not as elite as they were last year, I'm not starting them in week 14. I'm dropping them. So I'm not wasting a high pick for a team that I'm going to drop and go after. You know who Baltimore's playing in week 14? The Buffalo Bills. I might be starting Baltimore week 14. So the Baltimore could come out, have a monster game week 1. They play Arizona week 2. I get to reevaluate them again, because I'm not scared of Arizona. I like Kyle Murray, but I'm not scared of Kyle Murray. As my defense is going up there, he's not Rodgers yet. So I'll evaluate Baltimore in 2 weeks, and then I get to make the decision, because maybe they're worth keeping. I'm like, whoa, this secondary is nasty. I'm going to keep them, because that playoff round, week 14, I got Baltimore versus the Buffalo Bills. I like it. I'm going to take that all day. Whereas, unless the Bears are dominant, I'm like, oh, Zeke comes back, and that offensive line looks good. I don't know. You see what I'm saying?
Hey, Blue. So, for those of y'all watching this video, that's the type of thinking that gets this guy championships right there. That's the analysis. That's that next level, type of analysis. So he just dropped a gem for y'all, because even I forget that sometimes.
Yeah. And then you end up going with Cleveland. I forget what the Cleveland schedule is, but I know that they're on my list, because they got a pretty decent schedule down the end of the road. I think they play the Bengals week 14. Don't quote me on that, but they play the Bengals at some point in the playoffs. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, that's going to be a bad offense too, the Bengals, So, and that's one of those teams you can kind of analyze as you're going through the year. Jimmy Garoppolo, you had Kyler Murray. I said it earlier. I don't know what Kyler Murray's going to be. He's either going to be really good, he could be mediocre, or he could be terrible. But there's a chance that he's really freaking good, right? So, But just in case he's not, I like that you went and got Jimmy Garoppolo there, because I agree. I think Jimmy Garoppolo's really good. I came back around. Okay, so I did that 0 receiver strategy essentially, right? And so now I end up starting the best receiver in Miami, which is Kenny Stills. Rosen could suck, but he might throw for 4,000 yards and 20-something interceptions. But that means Kenny Stills is going to be catching a bunch of bombs.
Now, are you saying that because Fitzpatrick is not starting over Rosen?
Oh, Fitzpatrick is start too, but they both like to air the ball out.
Okay.
They can turn the ball over all day long. We can call them bad quarterbacks. That doesn't mean they're not making the receivers good.
Gotcha.
So Kenny Stills could still have a big day. I was just using Rosen as – I think he ends up getting the job. I think Rosen gets the job.
Whoa. Okay. Y'all,
maybe not week
y'all
1.
heard it here.
Maybe not week 1, but at some point he's getting the job. Fitzpatrick – there's a Fitzpatrick cycle that happens. Does good in the first week, throws 5 interceptions, gets benched. The quarterback gets hurt. He gets back on the field, does good at the very end of the year, gets signed, does the same shit again.
Oh, that segment right there needs to be recorded and played on a loop.
So then we got Marquise Brown, who was a highly drafted. He was the top receiver taken this year, so he could be good. And like I said, Lamar Jackson could be a monster. I mean, he's probably going to suck. I'm not buying that he's going to be a great passer, but if he is, it's good because this guy's all over the place, or they're finding ways to get this guy the ball. So this is my throwaway pick. This is the guy I might drop the first pick I'm going to drop as soon as I find somebody worth picking up on the wire. Not a big deal. Or the second guy, because I got another guy coming up. Comes back to you. You go kicker. If I don't have to draft a kicker and we're this far out of the regular season, I'm not drafting a kicker just because I like to drop the kicker. I'll pick the kicker up on Sunday because I'm trying to figure out what spot I really care about here, right?
That might not be a good way of looking at it. I typically actually want to pick my kicker and know that spot's good to go. So I went with the best available kicker.
Yeah, and honestly, that might not be a good way to go. The kicker gets me every year. Like, if I lose, it's going to be because I could not get the right kicker. I don't know how many times I've lost because the other guy outscores me by 20 points on the kicker. And I'm just like, oh, what a lucky bastard, you know? But but that might be my flaw. That might be a flaw in my game. That being said, I've also picked up a guy, and I'll pick up, let's say I got Mixon, and Mixon just a little bit banged up, but he's still going to play. And then I drop my kicker, and I pick up, Gio. And then here comes Sunday, and guess who's not playing? Mixon. But guess who's got Gio? This guy. So then I can drop somebody else who I didn't want to drop, but now I need a kicker, but I already got Gio, so I'm good. So that's kind of the way I play the kicker game at the end. Like, I know that it's better to have a good kicker, but I'd rather have that flexibility that other teams aren't utilizing and get that guy on the waiver wire that I might need, and just see. Then I make a decision as I get closer. I got time to think about it, right?
Yeah.
So you went Hooper there. You just don't feel awesome because we know Olsen was an auto pick, so you just don't feel awesome there about OJ Howard, or what was the thinking there with Hooper?
If I could go back and do it again, I think the actually better pick would have been. I didn't realize that Parker was still out there for Miami.
Yeah.
So it was just having another tight end that just in case my tight end one doesn't do anything, and then Olsen's not,
you're going to drop him.
Performing. Hooper does enough. He's not even enough. Hooper has his moments, but he's in a high-powered Falcons offense.
Yeah.
So I took him.
I talked a little bit about what I thought about tight ends. So Hooper falls into the bunch of bums that I mentioned earlier.
Yes, sir.
But Dallas Goedert is a guy that I do kind of like, especially if I draft Ertz. But I drafted him here mostly because I wanted to talk about him. I think if I was really going to pick a player here, I'd probably pick like Gio because I have my tight end. I would have picked God. I just wanted to talk about this guy because if Ertz goes down, this is a top 3, top 4 tight end right off the bat.
I agree.
So I got him here so that I could talk about him because if you end up with one of these bums at tight end, go ahead and stash him just in case something happens to Ertz. Because if you're playing Goddard in the championship, you got an elite tight end. You got him with the last pick of the draft. If you're in those deeper leagues, like I'm in a 14-team league, I wasted a lot of draft stock to get Goddard because I had Ertz, and I was like, there is no way that I'm going to find a good tight end out there in a 14-team league that is just loaded with people who are on the waiver wire constantly, and they all have crap tight ends. There's only 5 of us with good ones, or 6 of us if you count Hunter Henry and OJ Howard. So I went ahead and got Goddard because I have Ertz. I'm just going to make sure that Eagles tight end that's what I'm going to ride into the playoffs. I got the Eagles tight end on my roster. So that's something I would do if you're in those deeper leagues.
That's a pretty good analysis. Thanks for that, Jim. I'm writing that one down as soon as we're done.
All right. So okay, that's it for the show. Thanks, King, for being on. It was awesome. If you like what you guys heard, subscribe, like us, whatever. It doesn't cost you anything. Helps us out a lot. That's it. See ya.
See you.